Breaking news you're hearing here first. 3 people have been charged in the death of One Direction singer Liam Payne. Argentinian prosecutors made this announcement late Thursday, saying 3 people are charged with abandonment of a person followed by death and supply and facilitation of narcotics. So far, we don't have these suspects' names, but we kind of know their relationship to Payne. One suspect was a, quote, person who accompanied the artist on a daily basis during his stay in the city of Buenos Aires. A second suspect is a hotel employee, and a third suspect is an apparent drug dealer. Now, all this comes weeks after Payne fell from the balcony of his hotel room while visiting Argentina. Investigators say in the days leading up to Payne's death, he was using drugs and drinking. He was found with alcohol, cocaine, and a prescription antidepressant in his system. This is a developing story that will continue to follow, but for now, let's take a deep dive into the facts we do know with Sidebar host Jesse Weber.
We are learning more details about the death of former One Direction star Liam Payne, the young man behind so many of their hit songs, after he fell to his death at an Argentina hotel. But rumors continue to swirl about what happened in the hours leading up to his death and who might be involved. Well, forensic death investigator Joseph Scott Morgan is coming back on to help me separate fact from fiction. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. So police in Buenos Aires, Argentina, they have raided the luxurious CasaSur Palmero Hotel as the region's prosecutor investigates how Liam Payne went from just greeting excited fans outside to then lying dead in the hotel courtyard 3 stories below his hotel balcony. And we've been keeping a very close eye on this story, and I want to bring back in forensic death investigator from Jacksonville State University, host of the Body Bags podcast, Joseph Scott Morgan. Joseph, good to see you. Thanks so much for coming on. We just spoke about this investigation earlier this week. And since then, we've kind of learned a little new information. Some of it's pretty enlightening, and I'm going to talk about it right now. So as we've told you, 31-year-old Liam Payne, he died on October 16th. Hotel staff, they reportedly heard a very loud noise from an interior courtyard, and Liam Payne was there. He was found with grave injuries on the ground. It's believed he fell from the balcony of his 3rd-floor hotel room that's reportedly about 45 feet up in the air. And just minutes before that, a hotel employee had called the emergency services line because Payne was apparently acting erratically, that he could be experiencing some sort of drug-induced psychosis or another episode. The caller told the dispatcher, "We need to send someone with urgency because I don't know if the guest's life is in danger because he's in a room with a balcony and we're afraid he could do something that threatens his life." Now, by the time they got there, a few minutes later, Payne was dead. Forensic experts reportedly found 25 injuries that were, quote, compatible with those caused by falling from a height. It's according to the autopsy report. The thing about that is, and I'm bringing in Joseph now, when you and I spoke about this last, you said you found 25 injuries to be caused by that fall to be highly improbable, right?
Free falling through the air, 45 feet, and it's in a courtyard. So one can assume that this is probably ceramic tile, maybe even poured concrete. When you hit that surface, you don't bounce. I think a lot of people have an idea that you bounce about, when you strike the ground. You don't. I'm not saying he hit terminal velocity at that altitude, 45 feet. But what I am saying is that most people are not going to walk away from that, let alone stand up and then create other injuries that are not necessarily associated with the initial impact injury. You might find, let's just play out a scenario. Let's say someone fell off of a balcony and they struck between their shoulder blades, and then as a result, they kind of whiplash back and they strike their head, kind of the occipital area. You can have those 2 injuries. They're not mutually exclusive in any way. However, if you've got multiple injuries all over various surfaces of your body, that dog won't hunt. It doesn't make sense. It's kind of like when you hear parents who are abusing children, they'll say, "Yeah, my kid fell out of a tree, broke his arm." Okay, but why do they have injuries on the leg, the foot, the other arm, on the back of the neck? All this, it doesn't make sense. And I can't imagine any forensic practitioner that would make that assessment and say it publicly.
I guess from a layperson's perspective, let's say he were to fall face down, and so could they say, well, he had an injury to the right side of his face, the right side of his temple, his cheek, his jaw, his arm, his shoulder, his elbow? Like, would they count it all as 25 injuries? And I'm just thinking about it, how a fall might result in that. Because, and I'll say that because here's the other way I ask about it. It's believed that Payne was alone in his room when he fell, and police have reported that that room was in disarray, that there were broken items everywhere. So now I'm wondering, could it really be from the fall? Maybe they're categorizing maybe something small as a separate injury, or is there something from the state of that room that might say maybe that's where the injuries were sustained?
Yeah, and I'm glad we revisited this. Remember, we talked about this the other day, Jesse. The idea that you got the room trashed. I've got visions of the Who from the 1970s of Pete Townsend going through and ripping walls out and everything. And yeah, you're going to generate injuries like that. We don't know what items in the room were destroyed or disrupted as well. Also, one of the things we look for when you have either lacerations, abrasions, or contusions, you try to find a pattern there. Okay. Now, if he has like skinned up knuckles, for instance, or the back of the hand, there's maybe, I don't know, a square shaped bruise. That's not necessarily going to marry up with an impact directly on the ground beneath this balcony. I want to go back up into the room and search all of the surfaces. I want to look for blood deposition. Like, let's just say he's picked something up, thrown it to the ground. Maybe it was glass. He picked it up again and cut himself. And it doesn't have to be a major cut. They could be counting a single glass cut on his hand. Also, they keep saying balcony. He went over the balcony. Okay, how did he get out onto the balcony? Did he have to force the door open? Did he break the glass to get out there? Or was it just wide open and you can go anywhere you want? I have no idea. But to sit there and say that all of these injuries originated from a single fall, I'm not buying it. I've had people that have taken nosedives off of skyscrapers, in big cities, and you would think that, the body would be obliterated. Most of the time, you're going to get a single point of impact. Now, it might be very, very grotesque and very involved, but you're not going to get 25 separate injuries
Yeah.
from a single fall.
Let me ask you this. So on Wednesday night, I think this was after you and I spoke, a police special investigations unit, they went into that hotel to do a search. And according to the Associated Press, the officers took computer hard drives, footage from the hotel cameras. Sources also told Us Weekly that the hotel needed to provide more security footage as well as any information about its employees. What are they looking for? And how long does it take to go through this kind of footage, this kind of data, I should say?
Well, yeah, I think that anybody that had access to this floor that he was on, I found it interesting, Jesse. I was taking a look at some of the write-ups on this, and I noticed he does in fact have a bodyguard, which I'm fascinated by that little, that little adjunct there. If you have a bodyguard, and I know that a lot of these upper echelon stars, they have these people that follow them around. They chauffeur them, they stand guard after their door, or maybe they're inside the place. They answer the door for the celebrity. How much of an involvement does this individual have? Because in the article, actually, they're identifying this person as cooperating or helping, I think is the way it's stated. So I'd want to know what this individual saw. When did he last see this gentleman? Did the guy make any kind of comments that could have alluded to suicidal ideation or that somebody was after him or anything like that? That's kind of where you start. The CCTV, if this is a place that is frequented by celebrities most of the time, and even if it's not a celebrity nowadays with elevators, they're generally locked down. You have to have a key card, you have to swipe it and then press the button. How much more so if it's a high-end place where someone like him would stay? And so you've got these cameras that are trained out there. Somebody in food services. I think that it was perhaps it's bringing something up. And here's something interesting, I think, and I think this is probably what they're going after. Remember, they talked to one of these individuals that worked there where he may have acquired drugs from. I want to know if there's any kind of linkage. Did these two guys ever meet up? Do you have CCTV of him coming to the door, in the wake of all this or preceding this, this horrible event? I don't know, but they're going to be checking all of that out. And also, I think If he is out and about around town, was there anybody suspicious following him, Jesse?
Yeah,
You
that's a
have
good
to look at
point.
the CCTV relative to that. I'd want to know if anybody was outside the hotel,
Right.
just kind of, I hate to say casing the joint, but you know what I'm saying.
But before I go into the next part about this, just real
Yeah.
quick, how long would it take to analyze and process this information and maybe reveal anything to the public about it?
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. The way this is set up down there, essentially the police work. I mean, the pathologist actually work for the police. It's not like here where we have medical examiner, coroner system, and they're
Yeah.
a separate entity. So the tox alone is having to be sent out or is being done in house. I would think that there would be a level of expediency to that,
Yeah.
where they could get it done pretty quickly. And we already have an idea if they found this so-called pink cocaine at the,
Well,
at the hotel. I'm wondering
yeah.
if they're analyzing specifically for those components.
Let me touch upon that because one of the biggest
Yeah.
pieces of evidence that police have honed in on is this photo right here. We're going to be showing it. It is a box that once contained a bar of Dove soap. And we blurred the photo, but you'll be able to also see lighters, metal foil, various powders, stains on this table. And police are reportedly investigating whether that box might have been used to smuggle drugs to Liam Payne. And authorities believe that the box likely contained cocaine. It's been sent out for processing. And before we even get into what else was in his system, testing on the box, how does that work? What are they looking for? They're looking for fingerprints. They're looking for drug residue. Explain to us what we should be looking for there. And by the way, look at you continuing on, even though your background has shut off. I know it was acting a little wonky, but
Brother, you gotta
powering
be a
through.
trooper, man. You
So
gotta be a
what can
trooper, man.
Trooper always with Joseph Scott Morgan. So what do you expect from testing of that box?
Three big things. This is my takeaway. So with the box itself, they'll be swabbing it internally, I'm sure, and you can get external hits on a swab on the outside of the box, but they're going to be swabbing it for drug residue, probably in the interior and exterior. But you have to be careful with this because you had mentioned just a second ago something that's key here, and we begin to think about the deposition of potential fingerprints. I'll go ahead and give the primer again. We don't have fingerprints on the end of our fingers. We have friction ridges, and it transfers vis-a-vis fatty lipids. It creates a fingerprint. It's very fragile. So you would want to dust for that. And then here's the big thing. If they have a suspect, I don't know how the laws are set up in Argentina, but if they get a profile hit, a DNA profile hit on this thing, particularly if they're getting pressure on this case, okay, you know what I'm saying from the international community relative to the celebrity here.
Yep.
They could compel somebody to offer up a sample if they find anything on that case that's not associated with anybody that's within Liam's intimate circle. You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
they'll go through all these processes. Here's another thing: the narco cops that are there that would work that area. It's very interesting. Many drug dealers fit a very specific profile. They get used to tools of the trade, if you will. So the way something is packaged many times is unique to a specific group of people that are dealing drugs. So if you're looking for somebody that is dealing, for lack of a better term, in pink cocaine, all right, and you know who those people are, is there a particular way that they package things, all right? Maybe it's inside of an old matchbox that has tinfoil in it. Most of the time with tinfoil, what you're going to see, it's used for two things, either to put a sample of the drug in there or to cook. All right. You see tinfoil associated with heroin usage, with also if you're trying to cook cocaine so that you can draw it up, or to smoke it, because many times you can actually heat a tinfoil. You create like a little tinfoil bowl. You put a pipe over the interior of the little tinfoil bowl, and you can cook it on the outside, and you inhalate that. So that any number of things. So they've got a wide spectrum of things they're going to be looking at, not to mention whatever else was going on within his body, what they're searching for. One of the interesting things about this case is that the dad has been told that his son's body would not be released for like 10 days.
Is
So
that standard?
no, it's not, because, at autopsy, you take all of your samples at that point in time. What else are you going to go back and look for? You should have done all of your x-rays, drawn all of your fluids, taken all your tissue samples weighed and measured all of the organs, and you're looking for any kind of signs, anything that has forensic value to it. But it doesn't take that long, so I don't understand why the body is not being released, and I think that that's another kind of curious point of order here.
And you mentioned this, but there have been rumors that one of the hotel employees may have been involved, that he may have also been a drug dealer who was the one who got
Yep.
narcotics for Payne, because I don't know how many people know, but Payne, he was struggling for years with addiction, and investigators have indicated that they don't think necessarily there's a third party involved in the death per se, like, again, a person killing Payne or intent on killing Payne, I should say.
Yeah.
But they are still searching for this alleged drug dealer. In fact, an Argentinian TV reporter said this week, "We understand a person who is part of the hotel staff has been suspended after being linked to the supply of drugs to Liam Payne. We'll have to see how that now plays out. It is a person who worked in the hotel's restaurant." Hotel company itself has not commented on that so far. And now we're talking, Joseph, about going after drug dealers like we have in the United States. Look at the Matthew Perry situation. I'm
Yep,
not sure what the
precisely.
law is in Argentina, but you kind of hit on some of the main takeaways there.
Yeah, what a great point of reference by you, Jesse, relative to Matthew's death. And we covered that one extensively. And I'm thinking, in this particular case, this is not some celebrity that's in their mansion. This is a public location, granted, a hotel, but still, they have a vested interest here, because now they've got this high profile guest that's coming into their jurisdiction, and now they're found over the side of the balcony with what appears to be drugs on board. They're going to put this under a really intense light, and they're going to go after people relative to this, because let's face it, it gives them a black eye. And,
Sure.
I think that because this guy is beloved, all right. I mean, he truly is. He's got fans. I've seen like the video montage of people just outside of the hotel leaving flowers and teddy bears and all those sorts of things.
The
And I think
the
that's
outpouring of
grand.
support
But
and
but
sympathy
yeah,
has
he
been
raises to a
tremendous.
different level relative to celebrity. I mean, he's a big deal. And so whether they want to or not, the authorities are going to have to, stand and deliver. They're going to have to say something about this and talk about how the flow of this investigation is going, because people are not going to quit. The news media is not going to quit on the story. It's not like John Q. Citizen that may have fallen over a balcony and it might make it through 2 news cycles or something. I hate to say that because it sounds so awful, but when you get somebody in this atmosphere, um, it's a different kind of investigation. They know this. That might be one
Yeah.
of the reasons some of this stuff is taking so long, because they're worried. They're worried about missing something.
Talking about that, I mean, according to sources, Payne's initial autopsy, we were talking about drugs in his system. Let's talk about what we seem to know so far, even though we have more questions than answers. That initial report showed traces of a lot of substances in his system when he died. Those included cocaine,
Yep.
benzodiazepine, crack, as you mentioned, the party drug pink cocaine. The full toxicology results aren't expected to be available for another few weeks, and it is important to
Yep.
note we don't know how much of any one of this
Yeah.
substance was found in Payne's blood. So, Joseph, A, how confident are you in the results of that full toxicology report? I'm just so used to American authorities conducting these exams. Any reason to question the results? And also, if you can, what is the effect of all of these substances in his system if we're trying to understand exactly what led to his death?
Yeah, let's take the first part. Yeah, I think that their testing will be right on point. And right now we're in the qualitative stage where they're, like you said, they found multiple drugs, right? Well, as you well know, as an attorney, that's all fine and good to say that you have a qualitative finding. As an attorney, you want to know, well, what's a quantitative finding? How much do you have on board? And one of the things you look for, I don't know if people realize this, but when you're even talking about cocaine, did you know that there's even a standard therapeutic level for cocaine? So you think,
Really?
wow, cocaine. Oh, yeah. You can go through all of the literature, and for just about every kind of drug, even ketamine, obviously it has medical applications, which would be one of the components in here. I don't know so much about MDMA because it's ecstasy, but, they have therapeutic levels. And lots of times what therapeutic level means is that anything that gets above therapeutic level is non-compatible with life. Okay.
Yeah.
So you get into the area of an OD. Now that brings us to your final comment, and it's most salient here because when you start compounding all of this stuff together, it's so unpredictable, Jesse. And it's not like, it's not like they've gone out to Pfizer or Roche Labs or something like this. It's been manufactured. It's been, this is being manufactured in someone's basement or garage or some old shed somewhere. You don't know how much of anything proportionally is in any of this stuff. And then you don't know what kind of additives there are in there. Just because you say it's pink cocaine, did you know, looking through all of this stuff, did you know that even though they call it pink cocaine, you won't always find cocaine in it? So
Oh, I knew it was a
pink,
mixture of drugs. I thought that was oh, sorry. I thought that was a prerequisite for it to have cocaine to be. It's more. Look, I know the pink aspect of it is more for aesthetic purposes, but
it
I
is.
thought the
It is.
cocaine
And
was
it's like a
requirement.
shiny object that attracts attention.
Yeah.
And it's a party drug, because even with ecstasy, this is something that is a synthesized drug that's out there, and people use it to party with and have for years and years. But you do that combination. I go back to even a long, long time ago with probably the most famous is Belushi, where he takes this hot shot.
Yep.
And it's got cocaine and it's got heroin in it. And that's a recipe for disaster. Well, that's only two components. Now we're talking about multiple components in here, and you still don't know what might be in it.
And you mentioned Jeff Payne, Liam's father.
Yeah.
Him and Liam Payne's former bodyguard, Paul Higgins, they're both in Argentina. They're there to help with the investigation. Higgins, by the way, was reportedly not working as Payne's bodyguard at the time.
Gotcha.
So I don't know if, that might
I'm
have
glad
been.
you clarified that for me.
Yeah. And the two had remained friends. But even so, whether he's a bodyguard or a friend, is he somebody who's being questioned? Is he somebody who knew what was going on? He actually posted
I don't
a
know
photo.
if he'll know about what happened that night, but he can go. It can go to previous behaviors.
True, and they were very close. I mean, there was even a photo of the two of them that was like at a boxing event in Saudi Arabia. So he could be somebody that's a close contact, might have knew something. I'm sure he's probably been questioned. And one other thing I'll mention about this is, as his family is there or his friends are there, his body, as you said, can't be returned to the UK until all of these autopsy results are in. You said it's taking a long time. The funeral is expected to be held sometime in November. I guess that's what the hope is. I will say this. There is a public spokesperson for the prosecutor's office who said the representative of the public prosecutor's office informed the father that the toxicological and histopathological studies complementary to the autopsy have not yet been completed, and that the results are necessary to decide on the release of the body. Again, we've talked about that, Joseph, right? It's just a little strange that it's taking so long, but I guess, like you said, they want to dot all the I's, cross all the T's. This part is interesting, though. Payne's girlfriend, 25-year-old American Kate Cassidy, she's taken a lot of heat for allegedly what people are saying abandoning Payne in Argentina. The two had traveled to the Latin American country to go to a concert put on by another former One Direction member, Niall Horan. And they were only supposed to stay there for a few days, but Payne extended their stay. And 2 days before his death, after being in Argentina for 2 weeks, Cassidy returned to Miami. Payne remained at the CasaSur. There were reports that Payne had been trying to get a travel visa to come to the United States, and it was denied. That hasn't been confirmed, just to be clear about that. But Cassidy, she posted on social media about her relationship with Payne, saying he had recently written her a love note that said that he'd like for the two of them to be married within a year. Payne's ex, Cheryl Cole, also mourned Payne online. She's the mother of his only child, 7-year-old Bear, and she wrote that she can't imagine her son never being able to see his father again. And in the wake of Payne's death, a Change.org petition has started circulating, calling for legislation that would safeguard the mental health of artists and people in the entertainment industry. It has more than 100,000 signatures so far. The petition states, in 2021, Liam advocated for a support system to be put in place for young artists going through the industry. He spoke about his own struggles and the need for there to be care in place to safeguard artists' mental health. The petition recommends having on-call mental health professionals, regular mental health check-ins, ample rest periods. Joseph, that feels very interesting as we're talking about this. And again, trying to understand what led to his death. But at least, these initial reports saying he had all these substances in his body, this petition, makes sense. How do you think it's going to factor into this?
Yeah, it does. I've never heard of this sort of thing relative to the creative industries like this, where you would need someone where you would have somebody that you could reach out to. It is fascinating because let's face it. I mean, most of the time when we hear about OD related deaths in the media, okay, it's generally some celebrity, right? And particularly if you have trauma involved like this, you don't hear about these kinds of deaths with again where it's John Q. Public most of the time. So the fact that he was involved in this on the front end, he recognized a need for it, obviously, maybe because of his own struggles he had been dealing with over the years. It will factor into it. Again, but kind of drifting back a bit here, I'm very fascinated by this girlfriend. And, because I'm always trying to seek motivations. You don't have to prove motive in court. Obviously, we've heard that for years and years. But if this is something where an individual might take their own life, for instance, is this an issue of being jilted in some way? Because you're
Well,
looking for motivations, when you begin to think about this.
it's interesting you say that because there are rumors that are swirling about what happened to him
Hmm.
and what may have led to his death. And we know Liam Payne has not been without controversy over the last several months, in fact. And, the Daily Mail is reporting that he was actually dropped by his record label, Universal Music Group, in the days before his death. He reportedly had a large advance. He didn't recoup it. His second album was reportedly put on hold. It's also being reported that his PR team resigned prior to his death as well. He had also been seen in recent videos with his girlfriend, Kate Cassidy, arguably acting erratically, and you wonder if something was going on. UMG, by the way, it did post on social media about Payne, talking about his tragic passing. They didn't comment on what his status is with the company. But I will also tell you, there's been drama between Payne and also his ex-fiancée, Maya Henry. She's an influencer from Texas. And she had her lawyers file a cease and desist letter against him earlier this month after she claims he wouldn't stop contacting her after their breakup. In fact, Henry says that Payne would contact her from random numbers or create new iCloud accounts in order to text her via iMessage. She posted a video to TikTok explaining part of the situation, accusing Payne of weaponizing his fans against her.
Y'all don't even know what happens behind closed doors or in private. Ever since we broke up, he messages me, will blow up my phone, mind you, not only from his phone number, it's always from different phone numbers too. So I never know where it's going to come from.
And she also claimed on an episode of the podcast, The Internet is Dead, that some of the messages would be Payne arguably trying to threaten or harm himself of some kind. So when you think about Joseph, as we're determining what precipitated the actual fall, will we ever know if this was an accident versus a decision to take his own life or something else? What do you think?
Well, here's the problem, and let's look at this from the perspective of how people in my field, in the medical legal field, uh, conduct suicide investigations, which is one of the practices you guys rarely hear about. What we do, we actually investigate more suicides than we do homicides. So in those cases, we have to go back and do retroactive examinations, and that means pulling records from every treatment that they've ever had relative to any kind of psychiatric treatment, any kind of counseling they've been through, drug therapies, and their attending physician that takes care of the medical issues along with them, and also any kind of domestic violence reports, any kind of interaction they may have had with the police or the courts. And we take all of that into consideration. So to be able to try to understand, though, his background is going to be very important. But will we ever be able to determine if he accidentally fell, intentionally fell, or something even more sinister that night in that room, unless there is some type of glaring evidence as to a particular struggle that might have involved another person? This question may be left unanswered forever and ever. You just never know.
Can I ask you one really, really quick follow-up? The 25
You bet.
injuries, would there be evidence of a struggle, a fight, or would, given the gravity of what happened to him, it'd be difficult to determine whether or not it was from the fall
Brother,
or
my
struggle?
default position, anytime I hear about 25 separate injuries, I'm thinking fight before I'm thinking anything else. And then as you go down the list, I'm very interested in the level of destruction in this room. Okay. I want to know, is this something he did, or is it something that occurred while he was going mano a mano with somebody else? I don't know.
Well, look, there's still a lot we don't know, and
Yep.
maybe the video surveillance will provide a key to that. Maybe the witness testimony, interviewing the different people who were around him, may provide some more explanation about what happened. We just don't know. There's a lot we don't know. We're going to keep following it. Joseph Scott Morgan, thank you so much for coming back on to talk about this case and some of these newer developments. You can check out the Body Bags podcast. And Joseph, thanks so much for coming on, my friend. Appreciate it.
Thank you, buddy.
All right, everybody, that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. Speak to you next time.